Greetings. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create backgrounds using CSS. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I've created a file called CSS background.html, and the first thing that I want to do here is this. I want to create an external style sheet. Now, you'll remember from the end of the last video, showed you how to create an external style sheet, and this is how you do it, just as a refresher. Right up below the meta tag, I want to go ahead and put in a link tag. The relationship is style sheet. The type is text /CSS, and the href. In this case, I'm just going to call it style.css and put it in the same folder that the rest of my page is in. Now remember that link tag is self-closing as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to save it as, and in this case I created a folder earlier called CSS background as well. But I'm going to go ahead and call this file style, and then I remember to save it as type CSS or cascading style sheets. Okay, and click save. Now, to set up a background color is pretty easy. Let me show you how to do that. I'm going to navigate back to my HTML page here, and you'll see that I have just two paragraphs. I'm going to go ahead and run my file, and you'll see right now I have two paragraphs. There's no picture or any kind of color or anything for background. It's just whatever the default browser setting is. I'm going to go ahead and change that real quick. Alright. So in my external style sheet that I've linked to, the style.css, I need to select what element that I want to modify here. In this case, it's the body. So remember, when we build a style rule, we do our selector and then our rule, our declaration here. So when you're setting a background color, here's the rule. It's background -color : either the name, the hex value, or the RGB value of a color. Now, on the W3 Schools tutorial, and I'll pull it up real quick. You'll see in the styling backgrounds under CSS styling that there is a color values for a complete list of color values link here. Now there are a ton of color values that you can choose from. Let's see. There are a bunch of them. Anyways, there are about 145 to 150, or it looks like actually this is 147 here, predefined color names that you can click on as well. And this will give you all the different colors, their hex value, and then their color name. Now you can pop open and look up for HTML colors. That will give you just a ton of different color combinations that you can choose from. But basically, you have millions of them that you can choose from with all kinds of different values. I would recommend that if you're going out and developing, to grab either a color picker, a color wheel, or look at some common colors and then select from one. Okay. Now, for my background color, let's just say I want to make it blue or green. Okay, that's a pretty simple color, right? So again, just like with anything else in CSS, once you're done with the rule, go ahead and put a semicolon, okay, and then a close curly to close out your declaration here. Okay, so my background color on this file now should be green. Should have black text and a green background, and I do. And I apologize, that might not be the easiest thing to look at, but it gives you that contrast. Okay. Now, let's say I want to put in a hex value for some sort of color. Then again, I can go back and look at this HTML colors that I have here, and there's this really pretty red that has a hex value of, looks like D with 5 zeros behind it. Okay, that's your hex value. And I can put that in as well. That'll do the same thing. Okay, instead of red, it would be D000000, something like that. All right, now let's take a look, and you'll see now that I have a red background. Okay, it matches this color right here. Maybe and then let's say, well, no, I want to go with more of a gray, but I want to do an RGB value instead. You can do that as well. I'm just looking at the HTML colors here. I'm grabbing the one for RGB, and I can plug that in instead of this hex value. Okay. And you'll see that I kind of have like a gray background there. Pretty simple stuff. Again, name, hex, RGB are the main ways that you would put a color in. Okay. Now let's say I wanted to do a background image. There are all kinds of ways that you can do this. You can do what are called textures, images. There are all kinds of places on the internet where you can get textures libraries. I mean, they're all over the place. Let's say, for example, I want to do this orange background here. Okay, and I just went out to some random website right now and pulled down this file, and I'm going to go ahead and save it to my desktop, to web page development, CSS background. I'm going to create a new folder called images. Okay, and I'm going to save this as, I'm just going to say orange. Okay, so I've saved this image that I got off the internet to my folder here. And again, what you'll want to do when you have excuse me, when you have images on your web page, you want to make sure that they're in their own directory. So for example, I have a folder here called images. Image folder and directory are the same thing, interchangeable. Images, and then it's called orange.jpg. Okay? So instead of a background color, for example, I'm going to put in a background image. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to make a quick comment here that says background color. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and comment this out real quick because I want you to be able to see that code. Now, background image is pretty simple, and it's just background dash image, and then whatever the URL for that image is. In this case, it's URL single open quote, not double, images / orange.jpg, single close quote, and then the close parent. Okay, and this is on the tutorial for CSS background at W3 Schools to give you really good syntax too. Okay. And you'll see that we have in our background image that we have a piece of orange here, an orange thing, and it'll automatically tile unless I tell it to do something else, and that's kind of freaky. Very ugly, but it gets the point across. Alright. So, let's say we just want to repeat some image, and we're going to repeat it horizontally or vertically. this is pretty easy to do too. I'm going to go ahead and copy my code from background image here, and I'm going to comment out the previous code. So what I'm going to say is that I just want the image to repeat horizontally. Then I just need to put in a for background image, leave background image the same. And then underneath that, you say background repeat, and then it's just repeat X on the X-axis. Okay, so it'll just scroll across the top. Now, if I wanted to do it vertically, then it would be repeat Y. Okay. And I'll go ahead and copy that code too. So when you run through this and you see the sample code, you can say, oh, okay, that's where he's at in the video. Remember, Y is vertical, X is horizontal. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and comment this out because I am going to actually, I'm going to take a moment here and kind of clean this up a little bit. Okay. That'll work. Okay. Alright, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and go back here. I'm going to do what's called a set position and no repeat. So, if I just want to display this orange tile one time, this is how I do it. I'm going to go ahead and copy the code that I created earlier, and I'm going to say background image, no repeat. Okay. Some background image is, again, it's the same thing, but what I want to do is set my repeat to no dash repeat. And remember that dash. If you don't have that, because this is a lot of people do this, they'll put no repeat, and that doesn't work. It's no dash repeat. Okay? And what you'll see is that you just have this one tile. Now, if I want to position the image, like say in the, I don't know, in the upper right hand corner of the screen or something like that, I can do that too. Alright, so here's what we have. All I have to do is I just set a position to the right top. So background position, and that's right, and then top. Okay, just like that. What we got here? Okay, that's what I missed. I just had a little typo. There, perfect. Background position. And again, you'll see all this in the W3 Schools tutorial as well. Now, another thing you can do is you can do all this stuff shorthand, and I'm actually not going, you can look on the tutorial and play around with that if you want for shorthand for setting up your backgrounds. I personally don't like that. I like to have my code very clean, very concise, very self-explanatory. In other words, if I look at the shorthand property for background, it's all on one line and it's boom, 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 boom. You'll have to know exactly what those different fields are and what they represent. Versus if I say background image, background repeat, background position, yes, it takes up more code. Yes, it might take slightly longer to render. I mean, milliseconds maybe. But to me, it's worth it because, again, when I'm looking at the code, there's no guesswork. I look at it and it says background repeat in this rule, no repeat. Okay, great. Versus, no repeat somewhere in that in another rule when you're doing shorthand. Again, it's just I kind of like the longer hand because for me as a programmer, it's easier to understand. And I'm probably not going to be the only one working on this stuff. It might be another programmer I'm working with, or maybe I'll sell it to a client who then has somebody else do the maintenance on it, on the code. I mean, who knows? So, again, keep it nice and simple. Now, one of the things you'll want to do is you're going to want to delve a little deeper in that W3 Schools tutorial by going in and looking at more examples. Okay? Stuff we didn't cover in this tutorial. So that's the end of this video. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through some basic CSS text formatting.